Welcome to this training on compliance risk for administrative staff in hiring and onboarding. First, we will frame why administrative roles are considered the gatekeepers, whose actions can create immediate legal exposure. Then, we will explain two high-risk areas: immigration compliance with the Form I-9 and tax withholding manipulation via the W-4. Finally, we will offer practical steps, tools, and checklists to protect yourself and your organization. Before we begin, please note this content is educational and not legal, tax, or HR advice. Laws and regulations change and vary by jurisdiction and industry. Consequently, you should consult your legal counsel or a qualified professional for advice tailored to your circumstances. Here is our agenda. First, we will bust the myth that admins are insulated from liability. Next, we will unpack gatekeepers' liability and why signatures matter. Then, we will dive into I-9 risks and safeguards, followed by tax manipulation patterns with W-4 forms and payroll pitfalls. After that, we will review red flags, controls, and a practical checklist. Along the way, we will include brief quizzes to reinforce learning. The common misconception is that if an administrative professional did not make the hiring decision, they are insulated from liability. However, in practice, the person who processes, certifies, and files onboarding documentation becomes the gatekeeper. Your signature converts routine paperwork into a legal attestation. Therefore, your work is not mere data entry. It is legal verification with direct accountability. Let us explore gatekeepers' liability. Your signature represents a legal attestation. When agencies audit, they follow the paper trail and focus on the individual who signed certifications. Management pressure does not erase your statutory obligations. Therefore, you must escalate concerns in writing and halt processing when you suspect fraud, incompleteness, or discrepancies. The I-9 employer certification requires you to attest that you examined identity and work authorization documents, that they appear genuine and relate to the employee, and to the best of your knowledge the employee is authorized to work. If the paperwork is incomplete, inconsistent, or looks forged, signing is attesting to a falsehood. Consequently, audits often center on the person who signed, exposing them to penalties and possible criminal liability. Here is a practical I-9 review workflow. First, ensure the employee completes Section 1 on or before Day 1 and confirm all required fields are complete. Next, within 3 business days, examine original documents from List A or from List B and List C. Then, confirm the documents appear genuine and relate to the specific employee by cross-checking names, dates, and identification numbers. After that, record document titles, issuing authorities, numbers, and expiration dates accurately. If anything is suspicious or incomplete, stop the onboarding process and escalate immediately. Only sign and date Section 2 when you are satisfied and never backdate. Finally, store I-9s securely and separately from personnel files, and maintain a system for re-verification when work authorization documents expire. This flowchart illustrates the I-9 decision process. It starts with Section 1 completion, followed by the 3-day window to review original documents. A decision note asks whether Section 1 is complete. If not, it loops back to the employee for correction. The next decision checks whether the documents appear genuine and relate to the employee. If the answer is no, onboarding halts and the issue is escalated. If the answer is yes, Section 2 is completed and the employer certification is signed. The process then continues to secure filing, followed by an internal audit step. If deficiencies are found during the audit, corrections are documented with initials and dates. Otherwise, the process concludes successfully. Quiz time. The question is, by signing the I-9 employer certification, what are you attesting to? Option A, that HR collected some paperwork, but nothing about its validity. Option B, that management approved the hire, so you are not responsible. Option C, that the documents appear genuine, relate to the employee, and the employee is authorized to work. Option D, that you personally recommend the candidate for the role. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section of the video. The correct answer is Option C. By signing, you attest that the documents appear genuine, relate to the person, and that to the best of your knowledge, the employee is authorized to work. This is a legal attestation under penalty of perjury. Let us now examine W-4 manipulation. When multiple employees, particularly seasonal hires, submit W-4s claiming unusually high numbers of dependents, that is a red flag. Although employees sign their own forms, employers remain responsible for payroll accuracy. If a company knowingly processes obviously manipulative withholding claims, it can face penalties for failure to withhold. Payroll vendors often contractually place responsibility for data accuracy on the employer-client, keeping administrators in the line of accountability. Here are practical red flags and controls for W-4 manipulation. Red flags include multiple forms claiming 9 or 99 dependents from the same group, identical handwriting or visible alterations, sudden mass refilings just before a payroll run, refusal to correct errors, and management pressure to process anyway. Controls include not processing forms you know or reasonably suspect are false, requesting corrected W-4s, escalating in writing, and implementing training and threshold alerts in the payroll system. This matrix connects common red flags to rationale and the appropriate administrative response. For example, multiple W-4s with 9 dependents suggest coordinated manipulation, so your response is to return the forms, request corrections, and escalate in writing. Incomplete I-9s or mismatched data create false certification risk during an audit. Therefore, do not sign, require corrections, verify, and escalate as needed. Apparent document alterations or forgeries necessitate halting onboarding and involving compliance or legal. Pressure to backdate signatures implies intentional falsification. Refuse, document the pressure, and notify HR or legal. Finally, be mindful that payroll vendor contracts typically disclaim responsibility for data accuracy, placing the risk back on the employer, so ensure strong internal controls. Here is a clear comparison of recommended and prohibited practices. Do verify original documents and carefully compare names, identification numbers, and dates. Do halt processing and escalate concerns, and document everything in writing. Use checklists and internal audits, and maintain systems to prompt re-verification before work authorization expires. Conversely, do not accept photocopies or images instead of originals for I-9 verification. Do not backdate or sign forms with missing fields. Do not coach employees on what to claim for tax withholding. Do not ignore suspicious patterns across crews or locations. Finally, do not store I-9s inside general personnel files. Keep them segregated and secure. Here is the second quiz. The question is, you receive 5 W-4s from seasonal hires, all claiming 9 dependents and submitted minutes before payroll. What is the best next step? Option A, enter them as written to avoid delays. Option B, reduce the dependents yourself to a reasonable number. Option C, return the forms, require corrected filings, and escalate in writing. Option D, ignore them since the employees signed their own forms. You may pause the video now to consider your answer. We will discuss the answer in the next section. The correct answer is option C. When patterns clearly suggest manipulation, do not process the forms. Return them, request corrected filings, and escalate the issue in writing. Processing suspicious forms knowingly can expose the organization and you personally to penalties for failure to withhold and for participating in a scheme. Use this checklist as a quick reference. Confirm Section 1 is complete on or before Day 1. Examine original documents within the 3 business day window. Ensure names, identification numbers, and dates match across forms and identification. If anything appears suspicious or incomplete, halt and escalate in writing. Sign and date only when you are satisfied, and never backdate. Maintain secure storage for I-9s and a system for re-verification. For W-4 anomalies, return the forms, require corrections, and document your actions. As a practical tip, have a prepared escalation email template to use immediately. Here are the key takeaways. Your signature represents legal accountability. Audit findings routinely follow the person who signed certifications. W-4 manipulation patterns require proactive action. Always escalate in writing and never backdate. Finally, checklists, internal audits, and recurring training are effective risk controls. To summarize, administrative professionals are the gatekeepers, and audits follow the signature. For I-9 compliance, examine original documents, verify details, sign only when satisfied, and store records securely. For W-4 manipulation, watch for patterns, do not process suspicious claims, and escalate in writing. Finally, reinforce these practices through checklists, periodic audits, and training. Thank you for watching. If you found this useful, please like, share, and subscribe. Share your toughest compliance scenarios in the comments, and we may cover them in a future episode.